Now, for more on China's childcare challenges, let's bring in Baozhen Luo, assistant professor at Western Washington University. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So first off, start by breaking down the details of China's new third child policy.
Well, that came about after the result of 2020 Chinese census. That it shows very dismal sort of increase in population, I think from 1.4 billion to 1.41 billion. So that is an alarming sign that the society is aging pretty rapidly. And that also signals that in the near future that China might have a labor shortage. It has, I think, a monumental economic impact. So I think right after that, the Chinese government said, go ahead, you can have a third child. But the question is, are people willing to have the third child? Like your segment, perfectly sort of depicted, childcare could be quite a challenge for busy parents, especially in big cities.
So then how is this relaxed rule being received by parents as well as economists?
I think we are not, as a demographer, as a sociologist and a gerontologist who study aging, I personally not very optimistic about the prospect for positive outcome. Due to this relaxation policy for many reasons. I think there's just a drastic shift among Chinese women regarding marriage, regarding child, whether having a child is or more than one child is necessary for their personal fulfillment. We just see this very rapid sort of a shift in fertility attitudes among the younger generation. We also see a rather big decline in women who are during their fertile years, who are able to give more birth. So personally, I am not very optimistic, but it's very, very encouraging to see that the Chinese government, as we see in the segment, the Shanghai local government, able to implement a lot of sort of pronatalist policies, such as offering, affordable childcare. But more need to be done to really convince women that, you should have more children.
And what about men? Do men feel the same way as the women do about this relaxed policy?
I think this is a difficult question to answer. I think it really based on socioeconomic status. I would think for men who are in big cities, who are also struggling, who don't have a lot of cushion for childcare, for elder care, they're in the same boat as their spouse. But I think probably in third tier or even lower county level, so the townships, we'll see perhaps men are more sort of keen to this idea because, indeed, having more offsprings is traditionally perceived as sort of continuing the family lineage, fulfilling your filial piety, being the man, right? Being the man for the family.
So then, you raise an interesting point then. How has childcare traditionally been handled, not just culturally, but financially?
Well, I think due to the history of filial piety, the Shaodao, actually Shaodao, we often, when we think about it, it's like just caring for the elderly, but it's actually more of a holistic view of the whole family. Really, the whole extended family, they come together to take care of the child, take care of, the children, the grandchildren. So even, for instance, me, I consider myself came from a very sort of a traditional background in rural small town China, in Jiangxi province, much less developed, where the traditional culture is very, when I was born, when I was growing up, was thriving, I think. I was raised not only by my parents, but also by my uncles, my aunties, my grandparents. They were all involved. So, but nowadays, as we see, in modern era, we see a lot of that childcare responsibility falls more and more on the couple themselves, the nuclear family themselves.
Right, and we certainly see that even in cultures. I know for me, I was, had my grandmother around, extended family. So then, as we've been talking about this week, talking about how expensive childcare is in different other global cities, are availability and affordability of concern to modern Chinese families as well compared to, say, other countries?
I think so, but perhaps lesser. I want to say, because in European countries, I know some countries such as France and Norway, they experienced quite a bit of fertility decline in the I want to say 1970s, 80s, but then, with a lot of implementation of pronatalist policies like, affordable childcare, affordable, education, like very generous maternity leave, paternity leave. We see actually those countries some of the advanced countries, not all, are able to maintain a pretty decent fertility rate. But the challenge in China right now is this is happening so fast in China. Like population aging is happening so fast, and policies, they take time. Welfare policy, they take time to implement, to mature, to self-correct, to, like the better word, perfect itself. So China is not as advanced, right, economically. So China need to really speed up. I think the concern is greater in China, and that also at the level, the layer we discussed earlier, that the clashing between tradition and the modernity, right? That modern values. So I think China just have a much harder time, and China is not an immigration country like the United States. So, yep.
Well, certainly lots of great insights there. Thank you so much. Baozhen Luo there, Associate Professor at Western Washington University.